Location, location, location. Our next session is all about location. As we look at location-based marketing and advertising, we are joined by Asif Khan, founder and president LBMA, and Ofer Tziperman, CEO at Anagog. Yarkoni, CEO at Nielsen Innovate, has the mic.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the location-based marketing panel. The notion of using location data has been around for years and has been adopted at varying paces across organization functions and types, from advertising and marketing, supply chain, navigation, analytics, and even gaming. No doubt, with the proliferation of the mobile phone, it has taken off over the past few years. But now, with the growing privacy concerns and regulations, and Apple killing their IDFA, will the industry continue to grow or flounder? To give us a current view on the latest and greatest in the space, we have Ofer Tziperman, the CEO of Anagog, and Asif Khan, the founder and CEO of Ground Level Insights, and the founder and CEO of the Location-Based Marketing Association. Ofer, would you like to introduce yourself and Anagog for a few minutes, please?
Sure. So Ofer Tziperman, the CEO for the company. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. At Anagog, we are actually providing the world's first artificial intelligence engine that sits in the phone itself, unlike in the cloud, and can allow your phone to learn about your personalization in very fine details by using the sensors in the phone without any support from the cloud. So eventually the phone can understand your micro segments, it can understand your micro moments, what are you doing right now, but not a single bit of your personal data ever needs to leave your phone. And based on this technology, we actually build an end-to-end solution that allows marketeers to build campaigns and eventually to launch them on the phones of the users exactly at the right time and place without compromising on the privacy of the users.
Amazing. Thank you. So to give now a more overview of the industry and the statistics and the status, I'm going to turn it over to Asif, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Dov. Really great to be able to participate in this. As was said, I'm the founder and president of the Location-Based Marketing Association, as well as a company called Ground Level Insights. I thought just for the benefit of the audience, I'd focus my comments today on kind of how location-based data and marketing is evolving in a COVID-19 pandemic world, and just try to highlight some things there. If you're not familiar with the LBMA, we're the nonprofit global trade association around the use of location data and marketing. We define location-based marketing as the intersection of people, places, and media. We work across all media. It's not only mobile that we're involved in. We have many member companies in the out-of-home industry, in the television and radio industries as well. So we see a lot of intersection on location data impacting sort of the attribution of those medias and so on. Our member base is very broad. We operate in more than 26 countries, several thousand member companies, a vast array of brands, media companies, technology companies, government agencies, and so on. This is just a sampling of some of the members, as you can see there. And what I wanted to share with you today is just a few stats from our upcoming, soon-to-be-released Global Location Trends Report. So every year, one of the things we do at the LBMA is produce an annual global study. And we survey members and organizations across the planet, asking them questions about how they're using location data and are they doing marketing activation with it, what type of technologies within the location ecosystem are they participating in, and so on. And so we haven't released this yet, so you get a bit of a early insight. It will be released in a few weeks to our member base. But here's a few numbers that I wanted to share with you. So 97% of all marketers that we surveyed this year are already using location-based data in some capacity within their organizations. So that's a really big number. We increase of about almost 3% over last year. So really excited to see the continued growth year over year in what's going on in location data and how brands and how marketers are using that. In terms of the size of the market, we've seen a bit of growth here as well. $69.2 billion is what we're projecting for by the end of next year in what we classify as location and contextual services. And I just want to clarify, this does not include ad spend. This is strictly the investment in infrastructure and technology platforms within the location ecosystem on which you can action ad spend and other things. So it's the infrastructural spend. And again, a slight lift here of almost 4% over last year in terms of increased spend that people are doing, even now during COVID and looking into next year. Adding one to that, the ad spend now as a separate line item, $37.1 billion in geo-targeted ad sales is what we're projecting for by the end of next year as well. Now, this is interesting because we've seen a decline year over year here of about just over $2 billion. And so it's significant and we're attributing the vast majority of that to COVID. The reason being is what we're seeing from many of the members and many of the heads of marketing across the globe is they had these budgets allocated, but they've held on to these budgets. The dollars aren't being spent. They're in some cases redirecting to other things. In other cases, just holding on to the money and saving it for better times. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of a decline in the spend there. In terms of which technologies these companies are using, we look at 5 categories typically in terms of on the hardware side of location technology. So we have beacons, Bluetooth technology, GPS, Wi-Fi, near field, and smart lighting systems. And for the purpose of this discussion, I'll kind of focus on the EMEA line. And you can see here, 84% of companies we talk to are using Bluetooth technology within the EMEA region. 56% are using GPS technologies. And I can go across the board, 61% Wi-Fi, 9% near field, and 14% on the smart lighting side. Interesting thing here is the smart lighting is in the European market is advancing faster than in some of the other markets that we're seeing. And so if you're not familiar with that, these are technologies from companies like Philips, who has a division called Signify, and others that are basically retrofitting stores or new store builds with energy efficient lighting systems that have these sensors. Some are Bluetooth based and others built into the luminaires, built into the light fixtures, and you can use this to determine indoor position and things like that. So we're seeing some growth in that area. Still lots of growth in Wi-Fi overall. A little bit of decline now as I think beacon technology is sort of hitting in some respects some limits. And NFC is kind of growing, in different parts of the world at different rates right now, but mostly driven off of proximity-based payment technologies. Within the subsets of how we look at the location-based ecosystem, there are many areas of where that money I talked about is being spent. So location-based payments, voice-enabled search, connected car platforms. Dov, you mentioned gaming, augmented and virtual reality. So there are many different areas that we're seeing here. Obviously, the location-based advertising remains the biggest bucket in terms of dollars, but very closely behind that is the analytics space, which we're seeing a lot of emerging startups in, and what we classify as social location services. And so social location meaning Pinterest, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, all of these platforms are activating the location data within their platforms and enabling brands to close the gap between followers and places where they can engage with that brand from a physical point of view. So we're seeing a lot of movement there as well, and so that's really important to look at, and you can see kind of where the leaders are by country there as well. So the 3 things to close that I wanted to highlight quickly in terms of the impact of COVID on location-based marketing. One, you highlighted right at the beginning, the loss of the IDFA and the Google Ad ID. 2, we're seeing a huge amount of investment, especially here in North America, around brands, retail, and restaurants in particular, focusing on orders for pickup and delivery, because obviously less people are going physically into the stores and businesses. And 3, what we'll call AI-driven insights. So as far as the ad IDs are concerned, this is a huge move, by both, Apple obviously with the IDFA, and Google expected to follow suit in very strict harmony there in a lot of cases. So we're seeing, primarily the early impact is affecting companies like Facebook and Google from an advertising point of view, right? So, Facebook, Zuckerberg has been complaining a lot about these moves from Apple, limiting, what they're going to be able to do, how they're going to be able to target their ads, and the impact on their revenue from that. But the reality is that, at the end of the day, the OS is, rules the roost as far as, the ability to monetize and to deliver, these types of platforms. It still comes back to, from my perspective, that you need, as an app developer, as a provider of an app to an end consumer who's downloading this, you must clearly articulate value proposition and a reason that you really need this data that's going to provide value to them, not value to you as a brand or a company, but what is in it for the consumer? How do they benefit by sharing this location data? And I think if you can demonstrate that well, you will win, sort of the approval, if you will, of, the Apples and the Googles of the world. Of course, Apple has been working on their own framework for this for some time, as they knew they were going to go in this direction. It's called the SCAD Network. So it's a privacy safe framework. Of course, we have other approaches to that, like we're going to hear from Anagog a bit more, that I think are equally effective, if not better, in some respects. But essentially, this is about allowing advertisers to know which ads, resulted in the desired action, without revealing, the specific device information, the device ID, or the specific people who took those desired actions. So this has massive impact on our industry overall. Going to the idea of AI-driven insights. This is a screenshot, full disclosure, from their company, Ground Level Insights, just to show you how we visualize data. So we are taking a lot of different inputs of location data. This is an example from some work we're doing in the Japanese market right now. But essentially, if you take a property like this sports plaza, this arena, we're able to show you that people who are coming there, these orange dots are able to represent and predict, the most popular coffee shops or fast food places or, retail stores that these people are going to, how often they go there, how long they stay there, and so on. From before they come to that place and where they go after. So they're sort of looking at not just the visits to the business, but like looking at their actual full picture of their before and after behavior and their travel patterns and these kinds of things as well. Because it can lead to a lot of insights around cross-promotional partnership opportunities, real estate acquisition decisions, all kinds of things like that. And we blend this with sensors. We have 2 types of sensor products, one for actual foot traffic analysis with a physical sensor that goes at the entrance of the store or the business, and it just counts the actual foot traffic using thermal imaging to do that, again, all in an anonymous framework. And then we have a video analytics technology that we layer on top of security camera, CCTV footage. It runs machine learning algorithms in real time to analyze that video, to do demographic profiling, so age and gender splits. And in COVID times, we've built new algorithms to check for social distancing in these buildings or face mask compliance and things like that. But what's interesting is we're taking all of this data and pushing it through AI platforms to then look at the sort of behavioral patterns and the movements of these consumers in the physical world, to then make suggestions to the businesses as, hey, you should open another location here, or you should do this. So the machine is kind of telling the business owner, what to do based on that location data. And the last area here is, as I said, this idea of orders for delivery and pickup. Many factors are driving this right now, especially in retail and the restaurant industry, from real-time traffic, order preparation, delivery times, all these kinds of things. So there's this idea of what I'll call search and discovery. Many food tech companies are using location data in real time to engage and to know where people are, when they order, where they place this order, the distance to deliver that, and so on and so forth. Then it becomes secondarily about, okay, now I'm a restaurant, I understand this, an order came in, and how you use location data then to do delivery assignment is becoming another big area where we're seeing that. So the order comes in, you look for the nearest driver, kind of like the same technologies Uber has been using for years, but now becoming much more mainstream. And much more available to any brand to incorporate into their business, into their app. And then you have the idea of, okay, now multiple orders are coming in to the same business, and knowing where drivers are, knowing the orders, knowing the timing, and then being able to batch these orders together so that you can deliver in a more efficient way instead of sending 2 orders out with separate drivers, sending 2 orders out with the same driver because you know where they have to go from a geo perspective is in the same neighborhood, same area. So these kinds of ways to have real-time location data playing into what's going on. And then, of course, there's all kinds of new developments in the restaurant world, like cloud kitchen developments, where people aren't going to have physical locations anymore because it's too expensive and people don't want to go from a COVID safety point of view. So you end up with these kitchens that are just a kitchen, and they're making food for many different brands, and then delivering from those cloud kitchens out to the neighborhoods. It's very similar to the way Amazon has restructured lately around creating fulfillment centers in many different small pockets in different neighborhoods. You're seeing Amazon, for example, approaching big shopping mall real estate companies right now and buying up this empty space and saying, we're going to turn this into an Amazon fulfillment center in the shopping mall that's close to where people live. Instead of, so the closer you can get to shorten the path, the better. And this is the idea of the cloud kitchen as well. And of course, real-time geofencing. One of the best brands around that is Burger King. Does a lot of crazy, cool things with that. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share as a few initial thoughts. And now we can kind of jump into some questions. Thank you.
Fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Ofer, we understand the benefits from the businesses, and it's clear that there's a lot, and you only named a few of these use cases. Privacy concerns and people afraid of being tracked, not only from big businesses or large businesses and advertising, but governments and COVID, and there's all these edge cases of continuing concerns. How are consumers reacting? How do you deal with that? Are they receptive? Do they get the benefits, or do they feel like it's completely creepy?
Actually, that's exactly why we decided to move the artificial intelligence from the cloud to the phone, because eventually the only way of preventing somebody from accessing your personal information is if it is not going to leave your phone ever. So the only way of allowing your information to be in your phone rather than to go to some unknown cloud is if all the artificial intelligence is done locally on the device. So that's the best way. And when we are introducing this solution, we see that brands really love it because that becomes a legal shield for them for all the GDPR liabilities.
Makes sense. Thank you. So from Asif's presentation, anything that kind of stood out, or anything that jumped to mind, or does it make a lot of sense? Or of course, with the change in privacy, do you feel like the customers are continuing to adopt? Is this growth real? Is it going to stay? Just in
general. One of the issues that Asif mentioned with regard to the IDFA, for example, and the restriction that Apple have now placed on top of that. So just we need to assume that in this new environment, companies will not be able to use IDFA. And we prepared for that because in our system, because everything is happening in the phone, you don't need to reveal somebody's ID across different solutions, because the phone is the source that is generating the information. And if at all, the phone can import into the phone other types of information, but without disclosing the user's own device information outside. We believe that that's the only solution that eventually is going to survive, given all of these external additional restrictions, as mentioned by Asif.
Great, thanks. So the data, Asif, in the report is, when did you say the survey was taken, and where did you gather
so
all
we collected the data. We collected the data over in Q2 this year, and we're just finalizing the report now. So it'll be released in a few weeks.
Amazing. Well, looking forward to seeing the full report. I appreciate you all taking the time. Stay safe and healthy, and hope to meet you again physically at some crazy conference in 2-3 years. When